Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, and we are now joined with Senator Janne Myrdal, one of our favorites.
Oh boy, pressure's on now.
So let it be.
Okay.
I know you always do well. You've been on 3 or 4 times, so
I
you
think
must be
so.
one of our favorites. And you are here in Bismarck now for a special session, right?
Actually, special session is until November, but I have interim committees all week. So
Okay, so for committee
Yeah,
meetings.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, tell us what's going on. Starting with, I'd like to hear about some of the pro-life legislation that is being talked about.
it's big news right now in the U.S. I think we're standing right on the cusp of the biggest case that can possibly overturn Roe versus Wade. It's a Mississippi case that's coming out, but most of us are talking about the Texas case that came out.
Tell us
Heartbeat
both.
bill.
Tell us, what is the Mississippi case?
Okay, so let's start with the Texas bill.
Okay.
It's a heartbeat bill, which means ban abortion when there's a detectable heartbeat. So it didn't actually go through the Supreme Court, but when it passed and the governor signed it in Texas, and the abortion industry went all the way to the High Court and asked for an emergency injunction. And for the first time since Roe in '73, the High Court said, not going to do it, by a 5-4 vote. So it hasn't gone through the courts yet, but they knocked it back to Texas, so it now has been enacted. And we heard from Attorney General Paxton down there, it's saving over 150 babies a day right now.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, a day in Texas. So the abortion industry is freaking out, and I'm glad they are. So now let's fast. So then people say, should we do a bill like that in North Dakota? And I've said, we don't need it. We were the first ones to pass a heartbeat bill. Betty Grandy represented at the time, about a decade ago. And that's still on the books in North Dakota. It can't be enacted because it was knocked down by the 8th Circuit Court. But if you want to really get in the weeds, the 8th Circuit Court back then said, we can't enact it, we can't let you do it because, and then they pointed the finger at the Supreme Court, because you need to turn this back to the states. And so for those who don't understand Roe versus Wade, basically what happened was in '73, the federal government through the Supreme Court said, you cannot regulate abortion in your states anymore before viability, which is like 22 weeks or whatever. So fast forward to the good news, there's a case coming out of Mississippi that bans abortion at 15 weeks, and certainly that isn't the greatest either, but basically that's under viability outside the womb, right? So it comes right up and crashes against Roe versus Wade. So the Texas 5-4 decision gives us great glimmer of hope that this court will finally send this travesty back to the states, and if they do, our heartbeat bill will immediately get engaged, but even more so, we have an abortion trigger ban that comes right into effect. So North Dakota will be abortion-free if this court case goes the way we want it to go with this current court.
Can you explain what the trigger is?
So the
for
trigger
those that
is,
don't
we
know.
put in, this was before I was a senator, and I was a lobbyist for Concerned Women for America at the time, and we put through a bill that basically is on the books in the Century Code in North Dakota, but can't be enacted because Roe is hanging there over us, right? So we put a trigger effect on it saying, if and when, hopefully when, Roe versus Wade gets turned back to the states, then automatically within 30 days, the North Dakota Attorney General at the time will enact and trigger that bill into being enacted. So it's sitting there kind of waiting for the fuel, right? So
what would it be that would send it back to the states? And when you say send it back to the states,
I
what
don't-
happens to the Roe v. Wade?
Roe v. Wade, well, the popular word is being overturned, meaning they're going to go back and say, we took it, the Supreme Court said in '73, you can't control abortion in your states. Pre-viability and really beyond that a lot, because the courts have never decided with us since, right? Pro-life. So if the court takes this Mississippi case, looks at it and says, yeah, it can stand, they can go further. They can say it can stand to 15 weeks. They can go all the way further. It's kind of like opening a closet door that hasn't been open for a while. The justices can open the whole door because you bring one little clothing that needs to go in there. That means they can open the whole door and take the whole closet out, if that's kind of more of a way to explain it. It gets convoluted in law, but be assured that pro-life organizations around the nation, December 1st, we're going to be in D.C. I'll probably be there. This is the greatest case in our generation that can really save lives and stop this travesty of abortion in our nation and in many states. So if this court doesn't do it, I don't think it'll ever be done by a court. That's how serious this is. So if you're watching this and you're pro-life, I beg you to pray and to really, that's all we can do right now, but have marches, do whatever you can to show the justices that we're done. We want this to be turned back to the states, and North Dakota is ready to have that done. So no, to the question for those of you who want us in special session to Texas law, we even have a better law than Texas on the books already.
But it's confusing for people because we have a better law, and yet Texas right now is saving over 100 lives a day because they have enacted their law that the heartbeat after 6 weeks, you cannot do an abortion.
Exactly. So the answer to that is, let's say we got together, we are getting together in November for 4 days, it looks like. Let's say we put a Texas bill on. It would have to pass with 2/3 in both chambers for it to be enacted, actually law, until next year. You know, even when we're in session, regular session, laws aren't laws until August of that year. Well, we're looking at June for the Supreme Court case. So as much as I want to stop abortion right now, I mean, this next Wednesday, we're going to have a kindergarten class killed in Fargo every week. I'm desperate to stop it. However, even if we did pass it, it would be futile right now because we wouldn't get to where Texas is. Texas, it took a while. You know, it takes a while through the House, through the Senate, to the governor, and then whatever time it gets enacted. So good for Texas. Now, as far as the Texas bill goes, or law, they are going to get sued and go through the courts, I'm sure. But I think the plaintiffs, they are also watching for this Mississippi case. Every pro-life organization, every abortion industry person know exactly what's going on right now. And it's a big, big deal.
Well, I think you can kind of get a sense for how big of a deal it is because it seems to me like there's a lot of pro-choice or anti-life marches happening right now. There was one here in Bismarck a week ago. There was one in D.C. last weekend. And then you have organizations like Salesforce saying they're willing to relocate anyone who lives in Texas so that they can get access to reproductive care.
Can you imagine being that passionate about destroying women and unborn children? I mean, follow the dollar.
Yes.
Because it's a billion-dollar industry. But I mean, it's just disgusting. So you wake up in the morning and that's what you want to do? You want to make sure you have flourish abortion facilities? And yet they've been saying for years, oh, we just want to help women and women's choice. No, it's not. It's ridiculous. So
it tells me how afraid they are, though.
They're very afraid of this case. They're very afraid of it. And us conservatives have worked really hard behind the scene for years. You know, we got some excellent judges now on the Supreme Court, constitutional judges, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, Amy Barrett. I was there for the Kavanaugh hearings, fantastic judicial man. Roberts, the Supreme Court Justice Chief, was not with us on that Texas case. And the Texas case is unique. I have to say it's very unique because it doesn't have enforcement from law enforcement or from the state. It has it from individual citizens. So let's say if you knew that somebody in Fargo destroyed a life after a heartbeat, you go on, so you're the one who filed a complaint. Wow. And is that going to stand in court? We don't know.
Yeah, because some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah,
and we always get a little bit uncomfortable when we have to turn each other in.
Yeah.
But how else do you get the information? Because we can't trust Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry, to be honest.
No.